Welcome to Graphic Online TV. I'm here with Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah, former United Nations Senior Governance Advisor and one-time board member of Graphic Communications Group Limited in the early 2000s. He is now the Chief Executive Officer of the J.A. Kufuor Foundation. Welcome,
Thank
Prof. My name is Samuel Dodu, and I'm here with Professor Agyeman-Duah. We are going to discuss issues relating to the upcoming general elections and how we can also improve on our governance issues as a country in moving forward. Prof, what are the key governance challenges facing Ghana in the lead up to the 2024 general elections? And how might this impact the electoral process?
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me, my good friend. As we head towards the elections, Ghanaians have so many concerns. Besides the economy that has not been doing well, I think when it comes to governance, people are really concerned about how we manage the process towards the elections in such a way that we can have a very credible and legitimate elections that will avoid any possible post-election conflict.
Yes.
This is a major concern most Ghanaians have, and I'm not surprised. For the past 30 years, towards every election, there is this concern, and as you can recall,
Yes.
leading to church people to go and pray all night, and Muslims to go to the mosque and pray all night, and civil society making all kinds of appeals, the Peace Council and others. So I'm not surprised by that. But I think towards this election, the challenges are a little bit more acute because of the efforts of the incumbent government, the party, to break the eight, as they say, which has never happened before in our republic, and the determination of the opposition party, the NDC, to also ensure that the NPP does not succeed in breaking the eight. So we are feeling some tension in the air. And towards that, I think one of the best things all of us as a people should do, especially for the politicians, to avoid any intemperate language, provoking needless reactions to what they say. So my hope is that all the various institutions of governance, parliament, the legislature, citizens, all of us can ensure that we have a successful election, violent-free election, so that at the end of it all, we can be happy with the success of our electoral democracy. So in effect, I'm saying that the incumbent government should ensure that the institution in charge of election, the Electoral Commission, does its work transparently to convince everybody that they did not side with any party. At the same time, civil society actors should also begin to raise their voices to ensure that the right things are done by government and the institutions in charge of the elections.
Okay, Prof. So how will you assess the current state of transparency and accountability in Ghana's governance? And what reforms are needed to strengthen these aspects?
Well, the issue of accountability and transparency are best tackled by Parliament, which is one of the key roles besides making the law, is also checkmate the executive. So when the government is making policies or presenting policies or procuring major items for the nation, any action that involves money, it is important for Parliament to be alert to any possibility of underhandedness by government. That, for me, is the first line of action. The Parliament will expect them to do that. Then also we have some very critical civil society organizations like Imani, CDD Ghana, IDEC, all these research-based institutions working in the interest of the country. They should also be up and be more vigilant in monitoring the work of government contracts and other kinds of things to ensure that the government complies would lay down rules and regulations concerning procurements and other kinds of things. So I think together, civil society and those public institutions like the legislature and others, if we up our game in terms of ensuring that transparency occurs, that will compel any incumbent government to sit up and make sure that they don't do things that are against the law, against the rule, and to ensure that whatever action they take, especially if it's a monetary issue, it will be open and transparent for all. And finally on that, it's also important for the Auditor General to quickly get his reports so that all of us can examine them and take the government to task where we think there were some inefficiencies or deficiencies in the way they are managing our resources. So the role of the Auditor General is also very critical. And finally on that, I think we should think seriously of instituting measures against those who are found to have been corrupt or are found to have stolen public assets or goods, or who may have either intentionally or not have caused serious financial loss to the country. There must be some measures to impose some sanctions on those people. So far, people do things and get away without any sanctions, nothing. So I don't think it's good enough for people just to do that and get away. So I think we should, as a nation, we should seriously consider imposing penalties on those who flagrantly violate the rules and how our resources are managed, or who deliberately seek to deceive the country or steal the assets of the country. These are things that I think we should be
Prof,
alert
in
to.
recent times, the Auditor General have made some surcharges against people who have embezzled funds and other things, public funds and other things. But I'm asking whether you propose other reforms to strengthen this aspect.
Exactly. The imposition of the surcharges, I am aware, but they are very negligible. In few cases do we really see people being sanctioned in that respect. That's why, as part of the reforms, we should introduce stringent rules and sanctions. I mean, some people should go to jail if they are found to have deliberately been corrupt. Like we are sent to sign a contract on behalf of the people, either in construction or whatever area, and we find that you inflated the cost, and the difference gets to your private pocket and other kinds of. Those are serious cases that should really land some people in jail. So far, we don't look at that as an option in terms of punishing those who deliberately seek to enrich themselves at the expense of the public. So I think we need to be more stringent on how we deal with people who shortchange the nation and its progress by being overly corrupt.
Okay, so my next question is that what role can institutions like the Electoral Commission, Judiciary, and Parliament play in ensuring free, fair, and credible elections?
To a very large extent, it's the Electoral Commission that has the greatest burden in ensuring free, fair, and transparent elections, because the Electoral Commission has a direct mandate of the Constitution to do that. So, given the spate of negative commentaries that we get from those who believe that the Electoral Commission is not up to its job, and the general concern that we have to avoid a post-election conflict, I think the Electoral Commission should quickly examine its processes and ensure. So far, I think they are doing all right. And I also believe that some attacks against the Commission are unwarranted. It appears like some individuals or bodies want to give the Commission a bad name, like a dog, so they can hang it. And I don't think that is proper. because I think the Electoral Commission, by and large, is working according to the rules. And of course, if we have any reason to believe that they are not doing the right thing, we need to call them out. That one is clear. But I think with the proper monitoring of civil society and all interested stakeholders, the Electoral Commission, by and large, will do what it does. And as we've been told many times, even by the first commissioner, Dr. Farijan, he said the elections are won at the polling stations. So there's also a burden on the political parties to ensure proper monitoring of the electoral processes, right from now until the election day, making sure that nothing untoward happens at the polling stations. Of course, part of that will be how our security agencies also comport themselves at these polling stations.
Okay.
Because we have had some very unpleasant past experiences of violence committed by the security agencies at the polling station. So they should also act professionally, so that there will be no violence and charges and counter charges as we go through the process.
Okay, Prof. And how can Ghana's governance framework be strengthened to prevent electoral violence? And what measures can be taken to promote peaceful elections?
I think all of this, civil society, government institutions, security agencies, political parties, all of us have a duty to ensure electoral peace. The parties I know during elections are tensed up, and because everybody, all the parties, each of them want to win. So that is understandable. But beyond that, I think they need to be supported by civil society groups. And again, as I mentioned, the security agencies should act professionally to ensure that our electoral processes proceed without undue violence or conflicts. It's a collective responsibility if we want our republic, the fourth republic, to be sustained. If you want the success of this electoral process over the past 30 years to continue, if you don't want to plunge our country into a needless violence and conflicts and all, then we have a collective responsibility to ensure peace. And we can ensure that by supporting the electoral process, by ensuring that the processes follow the laid down rules and regulations, by refraining from any action that will undermine that process. Citizens and all the institutions, we should all refrain from any activities or action that will undermine the process. And finally, the security agencies must be very professional. They are there to protect the interest of the state. And the interest of the state certainly is to ensure a successful, peaceful election so that we can maintain our stability, our peace as we go on in this republic.
Yeah. So, Prof, what are the implications of Ghana's winner-takes-all electoral system for governance? And are there alternative models that could promote more inclusive governance?
Actually, this has been one of my pet concerns. But, whenever I have opportunity to address anything relating to governance, the system we have, the winner-takes-all, as you said, is part of the problem that we have, because that system is an exclusive system. It means if a party registers 50 plus 1% in the elections, it takes over everything. The party in government then will exclude even the party that got 49%. But any party with 49% of the votes is a sizable dominant party. Yes. So that is not right. And that perhaps explains why towards elections we have this high tension and, all the parties getting tensed up and at times indulging in all kinds of needless invectives against the opponents. So I think the winner takes all is a major issue. In fact, if we are going to reform our political system, that will be one of the key areas I think we will have to look at. Because the implication of that is certainly putting everybody aside for 4 years for the winner only to manage everything of our country. And the Constitution gives such a wide discretionary powers to the executive. Once you win, you literally are controlling everything. And our system is also so centralized that once you win, you become almost like a king of the country. Districts are almost excluded from this because at the district level, community level, we don't have political participation where people can elect their own people, where assemblies can plan their own development agenda. Everything is controlled from the center because of the system that we have. So when it comes to winner takes all, the winning party takes everything.
Okay.
Whereas if the system allowed for political elections in the districts, at least some districts could fall in the hands of others who perhaps may have a vision for developing these districts to make to create what I will call multiple centers of progress in the country rather than concentrating on
Okay,
Accra
Prof.
all the while.
If I may ask, are there alternative models that could promote more inclusive governance?
Sure. Recently, South Africa, when they couldn't, no ANC couldn't get a majority, they were forced by the constitution to form a coalition government. So today, as we speak, the Democratic Alliance of white South Africans, they are in government. Everybody, Freedom Party, they are all in government. So that is inclusive government that we see in South Africa. Even though our constitution does not permit that at the moment, I think any enlightened leader can decide to, through executive directives, can decide to appoint people from outside his party. But I would like to see a more formalized way, constitutional way of creating an inclusive government. Because at the level of our development, if we continue with this divisive approach to government, it undermines our development. As all of us know, a government comes in after 4 or 8 years, it goes. The next government comes and reverses most of the initiatives of the previous government. So our development is always stalled by this kind of system. So I would really prefer a system that allows everybody to be part of the decision-making and the implementation of projects. So whether we call it a union government, unity government, whatever we want to call it, the fact is that we cannot ensure successful development with a system that creates so much division and extreme partisanship.
Okay. Back to our next question. How can citizens' participation and engagement be enhanced to hold leaders accountable and promote good governance?
Well, first of all, I think if we take decentralization seriously, then we can bring accountability, transparency to the local levels. So people, citizens, even at the community levels, can be part of that, checking their district officers, whether they are making proper use of their resources and all. You see, when you talk of ensuring transparency, accountability and all, we're all looking at the national level.
Yes.
Everybody looks at the government, president and the ministers and the cabinet. But that is not it. That's why I'm so concerned about the way we have over-centralized our politics and our governance. We need to bring governance to the doorsteps of the people by empowering the district assemblies to become the local governments in the true word, so that they can govern as the national government is also governing the whole nation. If you do that, then somehow we are teaching ordinary people what accountability is, what transparency is, and all the other values that we need to have good governance. At the moment, I'm afraid we just get concerned about what the president or his government does. We don't look to ordinary people, the local levels. And as you know, democracy actually, in a true sense, is a community-based political process. But we have what we call over-centralized system. So democracy is like top to bottom, instead of being bottom to the top. So in Ghana, it seems to me we practice democracy only at the national level. Citizens, why are they involved? Only election time you are told to go and vote. Then you wait for 4 years to vote again, and nothing happens at the local level. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Because during the 4 years, it's the central government that is determining where a school will be,
Yes.
what hospital to build, even basic things like toilets in communities, you look to the central government to provide that. So where are citizens? We don't have responsibilities, we do. And then the politicians will come with certain policies, as are here today. We want to make tertiary education free, everything should be free. So parents no longer have responsibility for their children. Government wants to assume all that, when in fact the same government also abuses the resources we have, and now we are now over indebted. We don't even have money. And yet they continue to believe that that is government alone, is the one that can provide for citizens. It's completely wrong. Not in any democracy do you see, a true democracy, do you see government go all the way to the community level to build toilets, you see. So for me, if we are serious about accountability and all these values that we treasure, we should grow them at the local level. So as people come through this national level, they are already imbued with these values to make the nation tick.
So how can Ghana's governance system be made more responsive to the needs of marginalized and vulnerable groups?
I think this question ties in neatly with what I just discussed. Who are the marginalized groups? Ordinary people. It's not, of course, we can talk about minorities, women, even though women are in majority, unfortunately, we think they're in the minority in terms of their participation in governance. So they're also vulnerable. Of course, those with special needs and all. Marginalized groups are people who are cut off from governance, people who do not have direct access to participate besides elections. So if you want to bring everybody into the game, it should start at the district level, where the marginalized group will have easy access. Because at the district level, if you don't have a school building or you don't have toilets, it's easy to go to your district headquarters, go to see your DC, go to see your whoever, and sort things out. That will really enhance citizens' participation in governance. So far as we maintain this over-centralized system, it's going to be difficult to see how ordinary citizens can be part of governance. So we have to grow governance at the local level, in our case, at the district level, so that everybody will feel the need to participate. So we don't wait for 4 years before we cast ballots. So we don't wait for central government to come and build toilets for us. So we don't wait. In fact, let me say a final thing here. The recent policy of the Akufo-Addo government to provide tools for districts to do their local rules is a laudable one. People are not talking about it. It's a laudable one, even though, in my view, it's controlled from the center. But it's a good beginning, because now we are going to make the districts responsible for upgrading their rural roads. So the Minister of Roads here don't have to worry about going to a certain village to ensure that a 3-kilometer road is being constructed. And that should be the spirit. The district could not have afforded acquiring these 4 or 5 heavy machinery to do the roads. Government will provide it, create the local mechanism for managing this to their benefit. So for me, that's one aspect that I think we should, but overall, the district should be empowered to be able to undertake such local-based projects.
Okay, so Prof, what role can technology play in improving governance and electoral processes in the country?
Well, these days you can't do anything much without technology. And I think the Vice President's policy of digitalization, he's spearheading that for the government, is a good one. Because most of fraud in governance are perpetuated by the absence of technology. That is to say, things that are still done manually, and you have to travel and go through, fill this form and that, and they can sit on the form. But if you have digitalize it, and I can stay in my room, in my office, and pull my computer and fill forms and pay the necessary amount to get my passport or to get my anything, it will cut out the Guru boys, it will cut out those contractors and all that. So technology is very important.
Okay, so that brings us to our last question. What are the key governance priorities for the next government, and how can they be addressed to promote sustainable development and prosperity for all Ghanaians?
The next government should take the question of decentralization seriously. We need to develop from the community level with direct participation of the people. Let the district assemblies first, let's have the fiscal decentralization, which is the monetary side. The budget for the districts should be given to the districts. And then we have to have political decentralization, which will be electing, let the people elect who should lead them in the districts. Then the administrative decentralization, which we already have, should be strengthened by allowing the districts to appoint their own officials, not the minister of government, local government appointing and sending, or the ministry sending their people to the districts. Let the people recruit and be responsible for that. That will mean that then we can be having a real decentralization where citizens' involvement is direct, and that will sustain the democracy that we want. So democracy cannot crumble at the national level if the district levels are vibrant in governance. So for me, that should be the number one priority for incoming government, besides other things that the government has to do.
Okay, Prof, we want to say a big thank you to you for the time and opportunity given us.
Thank you, and thanks for coming.